Well, everyone's got an opinion about money, especially the people with book deals or a TV show. Some of that advice is pretty useful, but some of it sounds better on a stage than it actually works in real life. Today we're going to break it down with Lee and let him weigh in on some popular but controversial financial takes.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple: to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
Welcome in. Glad to have you on My Retirement Clarity. Once more, I'm Ben George with Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor at Perkins Wealth Management. Lee, I'm looking forward to today's show because we're gonna hear from some people that probably I think our listeners are gonna at least be familiar with because they are very popular in the financial world. But doesn't mean their advice always applies to us, does it?
Exactly. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So I think this will be a lot of fun because I think the listeners to the show they're gonna know a lot of these people that we'll be talking about and sort of breaking down some of their opinions and takes on things. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, for those that have been listening to the show, you probably remember we've talked about the Galentine's Day event coming up. Lee, now that we've kind of passed that, how did everything go?
Yeah, we had a blast. I don't know, we maybe had 65 or 70 ladies come to our Galentine's event. Third year that we've done it in a row, and it's just a lot of fun. We did some games. Of course, we had some really good food. For those of you in the Middle Georgia area, Fountain of Juice catered it. And it is truly, the ladies tell us it is one of the highlights of their year, just getting together, playing some really cool music and some games, some kind of musical bingo. It's just a good way for our ladies to get together. And I think people crave community, and that's one of the things that we try to do inside of our firm. Beyond what happens in the conference room, we like for folks to get together and meet with other like-minded people.
Yeah, so important to have that connection, and I'm glad the event went well. If you want to learn more about the Galentine's Day event for next year, or hey, just what's coming up around the office there at Perkins Wealth Management, you can log on myretirementclarity.com. Also, remember, you can always schedule a meeting. Very simple. Just go to talkwithjlp.com. Again, talkwithjlp.com. All right, so Lee, I want you to weigh in on these opinions that have come out. Some of them I think might be good. Some kind of made me raise an eyebrow or two. So I want to start off with Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki. He's now saying people shouldn't work for a company and save in their retirement plans, but instead they should either launch their own startup or buy gold, silver, and Bitcoin, or all the above. So what do you think about this shift away from the traditional way we save for retirement to these maybe alternative methods?
Yeah, I try to bring my own life experiences into something like this. And I've done some of the things that he's talking about. I've started my own business and it has worked out. But I would tell you, it doesn't work out for a lot of people. I think people just need to listen to things like what he's saying right here. Take them with a grain of salt because it doesn't work for everybody. I think it would be foolish for everybody who hears what he says, because he's out there now on social media and he's got hot takes. And again, the purpose of these posts on social media is simply for him to grab attention. And so he says things like this. But so if you're listening to him and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to quit working for the company that I work for and no longer going to put money into a retirement plan. And so instead, I'm going to take what I have, stick it in gold or silver or Bitcoin. Gosh, that seems like pretty reckless advice to me. But again, he's saying this to the masses, but he's really probably only talking to a few people that he knows would probably consume his products, his books. And his book was a great book. It kind of helps shape your mindset on things, just kind of a different way of thinking about debt as opposed to the Dave Ramsey stance on debt. And we'll circle back to Dave in a little bit. But yeah, I would definitely not quit your job, and I would continue to save in your retirement plans. And if you want to do some of the other stuff on the side, certainly do that, but don't go all in on this. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too. I think maybe the bigger discussion there, Lee, is just about, maybe there are different ways to approach retirement, because things have changed a lot from generations prior to us, right? I mean, it falls more on our shoulders. So it might not be buying these alternative assets necessarily, but it's a reminder that it's so much on us to save and take care of and be proactive about our future.
Absolutely. Because years ago, I mean, you would work for companies for 30 years and you get a pension and all those kind of things. And they sort of did a lot of the heavy lifting and taking care of your retirement. Nowadays, that the burden of retirement, even though retirement is not a burden, but the responsibility of retirement falls more on our shoulders. And I think you should do things differently than our grandparents did, but don't get crazy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What about the host of Women in Money? You probably have heard of Susie Orman. Well, she recently suggested that retirees set aside 3 to 5 years worth of living expenses in a just-in-case bank account to protect against stock market crashes. So, Lee, I've heard of emergency funds, but I've never heard of 3 to 5 years worth.
Yeah, that's a little on the long side to me. It's actually a lot on the long side. I'm a big fan of using a bucket strategy and giving every bucket of money a purpose for something long-term, played out over a short-term, mid-range time frame or a long-term time frame. But putting aside money, 5 years of money, just in case the market crashes, I don't think that's wise, because I think you're giving up too much opportunity cost by doing that. I do think your investment should be set up in a way that it will work in up markets and down markets, because market crashes do happen and you want to be prepared, and you don't want to just willy-nilly change your complete strategy. So if you do have a short-term bucket that is less volatile, I think that's a wise thing to do, but you shouldn't just put it in a bank account. Don't put 5 years of money in a bank account just in case, because people have been calling for a market crash for years and years, and it's been a while. So I would rather you have that money working for you and doing something better than what can happen inside of a bank. So again, Susie Orman has her, she's a financial entertainer. She is selling things. She's selling books and selling viewerships to her TV shows. And so they have to say things like this that sort of shock and wow the listener to get the clicks and to get the purchases.
Yeah. All right, Kevin O'Leary, you probably know him from the Shark Tank, entrepreneur, businessman. He's all over TV, it seems now. But he insists that if you don't know your net worth at all times, you're being irresponsible with your money. He promotes constant tracking, optimization, and performance measurement. So, I know we talk about, hey, don't pay attention to the ups and downs and checking your account value all the time. But what do you think about being very aware of your net worth at all times?
Yeah, so Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, he's my favorite shark, and I really like this guy. But the fact that he says if you don't know your net worth at all times, you're being irresponsible with money, I don't believe that one bit. In fact, the people that we meet with on a general basis, most of them don't know what their net worth is. They probably do, but you don't need to know it every single day, and you don't need to track it every single month. Most people don't need to know that, because at the end of the day, you knowing your net worth every Friday at noon, does that really change the quality of your life? No. Should you probably do that every once in a while, just so your spouse has an idea of what you have, or your kids have an idea? Maybe, but I don't think that's being irresponsible. I would rather you, instead of tracking all of this and measuring whether your net worth is going up and down every quarter, go out and do something. Go fishing, go on a trip, do something that you can actually use some of that net worth to enjoy it. Don't just count it. It's like I tell people that come to the office, I measure success not by looking on the TV screen and seeing how much more money you have today than you did a year ago. I want to look, and I do want to see what that number looks like, but I want to know what you did in this last year with that money. So let's don't just gaze up at the TV and see the numbers increase and say, wow, that was a fantastic year. I would rather see the number actually be the same, and then you tell me you spent a bunch of money doing some really cool things. That, to me, that's winning.
Yeah, and O'Leary's net worth is going to have a few larger swings than ours will day to day. So maybe a little more important for him to know what his number looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is an entrepreneur, and an investor, clearly, in a lot of things on Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. I like him. Like I say, if of the people that we're talking about here today, If I could go to lunch with one of the guys, it would be Mr. Wonderful. It absolutely would be. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase, How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
All right, what about this one? The star of Netflix, How to Get Rich. He's been renting his home for 20 years, and not because he can't afford to buy. His stance is that buying a home is a bad investment, and that renting can be a better financial decision than buying if you then invest the difference saved. So a lot of ifs in this statement here, Lee.
Yeah, that's true. And I had to read through this in a couple of different times to kind of, because I think he's saying a couple of different, maybe he's taking a few different stances here.
Okay.
His idea of buying a home is a bad investment and that renting can be a better financial decision. I could probably argue with that. Now, can the quality of renting a house be better than owning a house? As somebody that I was 53 years old before I ever rented anything. And it was because we were building a house and, we sold our house pretty quickly. And I was like, man, renting this house is pretty good because I don't have to do any maintenance. We actually lived, we rented a house and then moved into an apartment for a little while, which I thought was fantastic. My wife didn't like it, but we had nobody above us. And so that seems to be a lot of problem with renting an apartment. So I was like, this is great. A light bulb is out. I can call somebody. I can set our trash right outside the door and somebody will come get it. So there's a lot of pros to renting in my mind, but is it a bad financial decision to buy a house? I don't think so. Now, depending on where you purchase a house, will that house appreciate or depreciate? That is certainly a thing. But what he says, rent it and take the difference and invest it. The problem with that is you may not be able to rent for what you can buy, especially right now. That is, rents have gotten out of control in a lot of places. And so that strategy may not actually work because if you're just comparing the cash outlay, you may not have extra money to invest every month. So again, I would rather you be in a place that you can call yours and you feel like a lot of people feel secure if in their own home, if they own it, rather than a place that they rent and they know it's somebody else's house. And we also know that people treat things differently. What's the joke? If you're driving in on a car down the road in a car and hit a pothole or something and you're in a rental, people say, oh, it's a rental.
Yeah.
You just treat it differently. So,
right.
I understand his thing, and I've heard his stance on this for years, and he rents places everywhere. That's fine, but I don't think that's for everybody.
No, definitely not. And that's the key thing about this is just remembering that, a lot of this advice might be good in general, potentially, but does it apply to you? That's what you always have to kind of ask yourself. All right, halfway through our list here, what about Grant Cardone? He frequently argues that using as much leverage as possible is the fastest path to wealth, especially when it comes to real estate. He actually downplays risk. He promotes aggressive borrowing and frames caution as playing it small. So this kind of goes against what a lot of financial advisors would tell you. So what do you think?
Yeah, it does. So his stance here is a little bit like Robert Kiyosaki is on the whole real estate thing. And I get it. People that are real estate guys are real estate guys, and leverage is a big tool that they can use. And I get it. Again, going back to the people that we work with, most of people they're not as tolerant as the amount of risk that Grant Cardone is willing to accept. In your statement, you said he downplays risk, and he downplays risk because he can afford to lose more than most of the people that we see can. And so the view of risk is absolutely something that's different between somebody who is a multi-millionaire. I don't know if he's a billionaire yet, but that guy's he's got some cash. And so he can take risk that we cannot take. And so, and when he says he frames caution as playing small, I think people should be cautious, have some level of cautiousness to their financial life. Don't take on more risk than you can handle, because it'll keep you up at night. And some people are wired, they're adrenaline junkies, and that is probably him in the business world. But that's not a lot of people that we work with. So manage your risk and make sure you're not doing things that will keep you up at night.
All right, you mentioned we'd circle back to Dave Ramsey, so let's do that now. We know Dave, very popular personality, radio show. Well, he's not shy when it comes to controversial takes. So he thinks taking a common financial rule of thumb and changing it entirely is a good idea. So the 4% rule when it comes to withdrawals, he's advocating for 8% annual withdrawal for retirees who invest 100% in stocks. If over time the S&P 500 yields a 10% rate of return, well, he says the money should then last you through retirement. So, Lee, what do you think about this approach?
Man, I've got a love-hate relationship with Dave Ramsey. I give Dave Ramsey a lot of credit for me being in this business. Just what I learned early on just by listening to his radio show is why I got into this business. Once I got into the business, I learned that a lot of his takes on finances are misguided. He is not a licensed financial advisor. He's an entertainer. So I kind of got soured on a lot of things Dave Ramsey. But I'll tell you, Dave Ramsey came and spoke to a conference that I was at about a month ago, and I have a newfound respect for him. He spoke in a room with about 700 other financial advisors who have a very similar opinion as me. And so we were ready to pounce on some of his, what I think are crazy takes. And he didn't address that. And no, the person who was interviewing him did not ask him that. So we kind of steered clear of that take. But let's make no mistake about it, that if somebody wants to get out of debt, in my opinion, there's no better program or system than using the Dave Ramsey method, the debt snowball. His book, The Total Money Makeover, is a must buy for anybody. Buy it and read it. Don't just buy it. So get that book and apply it to your life. But his annual withdrawal on things, because he does say put money in the S&P 500 at average 10%, and you can withdraw 8%. It's kind of reckless advice, because he on his show tells everybody how to invest. Put it in a growth stock mutual fund, you'll get 10%, and it's average this, blah, blah, blah. That's absolutely true. It has done that. But you're looking at it a 30, 40, 50-year time frame, those numbers do play out, but it doesn't, every fund is not going to average 14%. If you're looking at a fund that's going to average 14%, that's taking on more risk than some people are willing to take. So again, Dave is just like everybody else. He's selling everything. But man, I've got a lot of respect for him as a leader, a business owner, and how he's kind of struggling. He confessed on the stage he's struggling a little bit with not his self-worth, because he's a very confident and cocky guy. But in transitioning this business over to his son, I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. He might be the second person behind Mr. Wonderful that I would take to lunch one day.
Yeah, I like that. Well, it's also a reminder too. I know you mentioned books. You have one. It kind of piggybacks onto this idea of preparing for retirement and that next phase and how to approach that successfully. Well, you have that next phase book offer, right, for people?
Yes, it's still a very popular book, and we give it away each and every week. And so if you want a copy of it, you can text next phase to 478-475-2050. It'll just sort of walk you through the things that you need to consider as you're transitioning to your next phase of life, whether that's retirement or a job change or something else you're doing in retirement to keep you busy. So a lot of good solid tips in there. It's a short book, easy to read. I'd encourage everybody to text that and get a copy.
All right, a couple more here. What about this one? Caleb Hammer. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a behavior problem. So Caleb has built a massive audience by publicly dissecting people's spending habits. And oftentimes he concludes that math is not the issue. It's discipline, Lee. And I'm guessing you probably agree with that, right?
Yeah, I'm not really as familiar with Caleb as the other people on the list, so I don't know his work. But I will tell you, he is 100% correct. It is our behavior often dictates our outcome, and our behavior just will swing the financial consequences that happen. We do a lot of smart things, we do a lot of dumb things, and our past experience sometimes determines our behavior. When somebody comes in our office and we're talking about risk tolerance and somebody, if I'm talking to somebody that's 70, they may invest like they're 35, or somebody that's 35 may invest like they're 70. And that's simply because of their past experiences and the behaviors sometimes that they have witnessed out of others. So I'm not going to change the mind of somebody who saw their parents or grandparents grow up in the Great Depression, and they've seen what a horrible stock market crash is going to be. It wouldn't be, I'd be wasting my time telling them that I believe in the stock market long term and you'll be okay. Their past experiences will trump that every single time. So yeah, behavior is absolutely the problem, especially when it comes to spending habits, because a lot of people have a different value of money and a purpose of money. And we want to try to dig into that in our first 10 or 15 minutes of a first meeting with somebody. Is let's dig in and find out what money means to you, what the purpose of it is. And you learn a lot by having that conversation.
All right, one last one, Lee. Let's end with Elon Musk. Everybody's very familiar with Elon. Well, he predicts that the advances in AI, energy, and robotics are going to generate such an abundance of resources for all that individuals' retirement savings won't even matter. They'll be irrelevant. On a recent podcast, he said, "Don't worry about squirreling money away for retirement in 10 or 20 years. It won't matter." Well, Lee, that'd be really cool if that's the case, but I don't know how many people are willing to take that chance and risk not saving anything.
Right. So Elon Musk, if you've ever read his book, it's a fascinating book. He's a very driven, determined guy. I think he'll be very hard to work for. You couldn't work for him long before he would fire you, because he's going to demand more than anybody can give. So he's extremely smart, like just crazy level smart. This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard anybody ever say. I mean, it really is. I don't even know. I don't even know what he's talking about there.
Yeah.
I would have to listen to the podcast, but there'll be such an abundance of resources for everybody that retirement savings will be irrelevant. Does that mean that everything is going to be free? Right. I mean, are we going to some kind of society to where there's just stuff laying around everywhere? That can't happen. So yeah, if anybody out there knows Elon Musk, tell him that Lee Perkins, on whatever date this podcast, I think this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard out of Elon Musk, out of a lot of people. So yeah, save money for your retirement. Don't believe in this.
He's got a big brain, Lee, but he's so forward thinking that it's hard to kind of process what his predictions are and whatnot. And most of us won't be around to even see if he's right or not. But it's interesting nonetheless. But yeah, like all this stuff is very good. I think it's just a reminder, right, that we're going to hear, we're going to see, we're going to read a lot of different opinions and advice from all kinds of financial people and platforms, but it's about finding the right advice for you, right? And that's what's most important, is figuring out what matters to you and applying that to your future and your planning. And that's what you guys do at J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, right? It's about honing in on the individual and not some blanket advice.
It is. And we have to help people kind of decode a lot of these things that they've heard. And now with social media, people can put hot takes out there and they'll go viral. And we're trying to keep people from taking their financial advice from TikTok and social media and things like that. And it's ultimately sitting down with somebody and learning truly what makes them tick. People ask me all the time, do you think AI is going to change the investment world? Man, there's been robo trading now for 10 or 15 years. It's going to continue. It still does not replace sitting down with an individual, knee to knee, and sharing what your concerns are, and then talking through those concerns. Yep, you can put in any question in Chat GPT, and it'll give you an answer. That's only going to get better, but it's never going to replace an in-person financial advisor who knows you and your situation. It just won't. When you pass away, is your wife going to get on the phone and ask Chat GPT what she should do? Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Maybe if Elon's right, it could happen.
Yeah, maybe if Elon's right. Yeah, we won't have to worry about it. It'll be irrelevant. Retirement savings be irrelevant.
Nothing will matter. All right, well, let's close it out on that note. A lot of good advice, interesting conversation for sure. There are a lot of things to think about, but always encourage you to reach out directly to J.L. Perkins Wealth Management. Just go to talkwithjlp.com to schedule a meeting with Lee. Again, talkwithjlp.com. Thanks for being a part of My Retirement Clarity. Talk again soon. Lee, have a great week.
You too. See you, man. Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now. But I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger. So here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.